Welcome back to the Golf Mom Mindset Podcast, where we talk all things junior golf, mindset, and raising confident, resilient young athletes, both on and off the course. Today, I have a guest that I'm very excited to bring to you. Emily Sprague is a wife, mom of three, and the founder of Turtlebacks, a premium golf clothing brand for boys. I've had the pleasure of connecting with Emily on Instagram, bonding over being golf parents, and also golf entrepreneurs. Emily started Turtlebacks after spending over 15 years as an attorney in the legal field. Her mission is simple: to create clothing that bridges comfort, confidence, and polish for the course, church, school, and everywhere in between. What began as one pair of pants has now grown into a full line of versatile performance wear both families and junior golfers love. Emily now spends her time building her brand, connecting with families who share the belief that boys should feel good so they can play hard on and off the course. If you enjoy this episode, be sure to like and subscribe and share this with another golf parent. And with that, I welcome you to the Golf Mom Mindset. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I would love to jump right into really what got you started with becoming a golf mom and then launching a business. But first, I want to talk about that you previously were an attorney and you worked in the legal field.
Yes. I was an attorney for about over 15 years. Had various different things in my career, but my main job was working for the federal government. I worked for the Patent and Trademark Office for almost 13 years, which was a great job. I loved who I worked with and the mission of the agency. And it was a great career to have. I grew up while I was there. I had my three kids all while I was there. So it was a tough decision to leave. Things in life changed, and I think it was just one of those things that it was meant to be. It was the time to kind of move on, and it's been a good transition.
Awesome. Well, before we jump into mom mode, I want to jump into business owner mode and talk to you about first of all, how did you come up with this idea? As a boy mom myself who struggles sometimes with, comfort over style with a young boy who just wants to wear their comfy clothes, it can be a struggle. And as you know, it is hard to find really good quality clothing for juniors. There just isn't quite the market that there is for adults. So what really inspired you to move forward with a business?
Absolutely. Well, I've had this idea for a long time now. My sons are 10 and 8, and then my daughter's 4. But my oldest son, when he picked up a golf club at 18 months and never put it down. But beyond, it was even before golf. He was one of those kids. He was very sensitive to what he wore. Didn't like uncomfortable clothing. He still doesn't. He's still my hardest to dress. So but as he got a little older and did start having to wear the nicer clothes on the golf course, he started competing at 5. And so every time he'd have to wear khaki pants or nice pants, dress pants for special occasions or whatever it was a battle. And he was always slender. So not only could I find pants that fit him properly, but that he wouldn't fight me on wearing. And so for the longest time, I would say to my husband, gosh, I want to create the perfect pair of pants. Like, I had this idea and I'm like, why doesn't this exist? This shouldn't be so complicated. This shouldn't be so hard. But never imagined starting a business or a brand. It was just sort of something I always said. And then I had another boy, and he's a little easier to dress. It's funny because they're very different. He's more into how he looks. Still wants to feel good, but he's my fashionista. So, but still cared about how he felt. And this idea never left my head all along. And then I had my daughter during COVID. So it was COVID year. Life was crazy. I just turned 40. So I'm sort of approaching that midlife. What's next? We were done having kids, and my husband went to business school. So he's very entrepreneurial minded. I'm actually less so. I'm an attorney. I'm risk averse. I'm sort of your by the books person. But I think it was during COVID, my husband started wearing, we all started wearing more athleisure, and he's coming home with all these nice golf pants and joggers. And by this point, I had tried, I think, every pant on the market, still frustrated. And, as my son got older, it just got harder to get him dressed because he has even more of his own opinions. And so it was really my husband, I would say, his encouragement of like, hey, you have a great idea. I think we had heard from other parents with similar problems. And he was like, let's just do it. I kind of fought it for a while saying, well, how do we do this? How do we start? I don't know where to start. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a lawyer. I don't know fashion, right? Like all the doubts going on in my head. And he was really the one. I owe him a lot of credit. One, I think he selfishly wanted to be a part of some sort of business, right? He works for a big consulting firm, but has always wanted to start something. So we just did. I started researching fashion consulting firms, finding somebody who could help me since I was starting from scratch. And we found a good company to help us with the beginning stages. It took probably a year and a half, maybe, from contacting that, maybe 2 years actually, from contacting that company to launching last summer. So it was a long process of having this idea, deciding we're actually going to do it, figuring out how to do it, and then launching our pants.
How did you stay motivated? One, with the self-doubt of, I don't know what I'm doing. And then also just how long it took to get started, to not give up, to say, you know what, I'm going to see this through and I have a vision and I'm going to stick to it. I mean, it sounds like your husband was very inspirational and encouraging you, but I'm curious to your own mindset of what kept you going to say, no, I'm going to do this, even though I'm learning as I go. I'm going to see it through.
That's a great question. I do think the support of my husband and my family, I mean, my family's been great. I think I did get a lot of people being like, what are you doing? You're starting pants. The idea was a little bit, I did get some pushback, but some questions about, well, this is kind of crazy. But I told myself I was going to make this product no matter what, like however long this takes, we're going to make these pants and see how they do. I wasn't honestly going into it thinking we would start a full brand. It was more, let's just make the perfect pair of pants and see how they sell. And I think, my kids were very involved. So they went through this process with us. So I think, part of me was like, well, we're invested now, right? Like financially we had paid the company. So that kept me going. I'm like, well, we've already invested this amount and so I can't quit now.
Right.
And then too, seeing my kids being a part of it, and they watched this whole process unfold. And it's been kind of funny because at the beginning, they're like so confused. Wait, you're making pants? And for us, are you selling them? Who's buying them? Who's going to wear them? Like what? They were totally confused. And now they've seen it all play out and think it's the coolest thing ever that other people are wearing this product that they've helped make in some way. So I still have self-doubt daily, hourly, probably. This is all very outside my comfort zone in a lot of ways. When I think being done having babies and having been a lawyer for quite some time, but that wasn't really my passion. I was just kind of like, what am I going to do next? Still to this day, I just have that trust the process, and I celebrate the small wins and seek encouragement from others as much as I can.
It's great. What would you say has been the hardest part of this journey of just launching a business from ground zero to what it is today? And I must say too, just with Instagram and how we've connected, so many other parents that I've connected with follow you and wear your clothes. I see them on their boys and stuff. So it's really cool to see it come full circle. And just in the short time that I've now have known you, to see your brand really out there and the visibility that you're already getting.
Thank you. Yeah, it is really exciting. The hardest part, there's been a lot of hard parts, to be honest. I think from like a personal perspective, probably just having to force myself to sort of get comfortable with being uncomfortable, even on social media and podcasts and selling my product. It's all very new and foreign to me. And so putting myself in positions that I haven't put myself before, or just that aren't naturally comfortable for me, has been a challenge, but one that I'm very proud of myself for. I think it's been a big growth process for me going through this from a personal perspective. From a business perspective, I would say the hardest part has been, I would say, like the businessy things, like learning the finances behind everything and figuring out profit margins, and then the tariffs hit. So yeah. All the non-fun stuff,
the back end stuff.
The back end stuff, yes. Mm-hmm. And I'm still figuring all that out daily. But that's definitely been the hardest. and continues to be the hardest, figuring out inventory and all the things that go along with running a clothing business.
Absolutely. Well, and like you said, it's a daily learning process, but I admire that you still charge ahead even in areas that you don't know, that you continue to move forward in areas that you're like, this, I don't feel comfortable in this, but I'm going to get outside of my comfort zone. I mean, you're setting a really good example for your children, which I really admire.
Thank you. I have actually said that to my sons, especially my eldest son, who's probably has gone through more things than the other ones so far. But I tell him, look, like, if he's anxious going to start something new, or, he's going to be with a new set of friends or whatever it may be, I have certainly used this as an example of, hey, every time you see me out there passing out flyers or something, I hate doing that. Like, I hate selling. It's not comfortable for me. I think it resonates because he sees that I don't, sometimes I'm like, hey guys, can you come help me? Mommy doesn't love doing this. So they definitely, I think, see that. I also was thinking about how my legal background, I do think, helped me and prepare me more than I probably realized or give credit to, because for my entire legal career, I did a lot of different areas of the law. And so I had to learn several different times I had to learn a lot of things about something brand new. So I got very used to sort of from scratch, but having to become an expert at a topic. And so I think just having that background of researching and learning and having to put that in practice has really helped me being able to, knowing that, hey, I don't know what I'm doing right now, but that doesn't mean I can't learn it and figure it out and keep going.
Absolutely. I love that. How does your personal experience as a golf mom, raising your competitive golfers, shape and design marketing and the culture of your brand?
It is completely, I would say, shaped and defined our brand. It's what started the whole thing. And I think one of the things I like to point out about our brand is that we're sort of building it from the inside. We're not an outside company trying to figure out what the youth golf world is like or what junior golfers want. It was really the whole reason for our brand, and we're living the life. And I think that has, in some ways, given us some credibility, right? Like, I think it's really helped. Okay, these kids golf. They know what it's like. They know what this world is like. So if they think that's comfortable, then maybe it really is. Maybe I should give it a try. So I think that is certainly, and it's, we are already part of that world. So that certainly helped me from a marketing perspective and from meeting connections and meeting people. And then also just from our clothes designing, most golf brands are men's clothes that have been shrunk down to kid sizes. Right. So we are designing specifically for boys. We are fitting specifically for boys, both in style and function and fit. So, we went through for our pants in particular, we went through several rounds of fit models with an actual model, based out of New York. And then we would get the product and try it on our boys. And so we would get multiple rounds of feedback. Our kids would give us feedback. And then similar with our other products that we've launched, we're designing them specifically for things that boys would want, to feel good in, but that also parents, that look sharp enough for parents to like. So I think that's a big differentiator in our brand. And I think being in the golf world, having golfers, seeing golfers all the time, seeing what they wear, seeing what they gravitate towards really, really helps and makes a big difference.
Yeah, I guess you can really say that you are kid tested and mom approved, right?
That's right. I do a lot of marketing and connecting with moms, but in the golf world, there's a lot of dads, more so than other clothing industries. There's a lot of dads that shop for their sons for golf clothes. It's probably the only clothes that dads, maybe, I don't want to limit them, but it's probably one of the only clothing items that dads want to buy for their kids. So that's been sort of just an interesting observation.
Sure.
And has sort of made me think, okay, I've gotten a lot of advice on social media and marketing, market to the moms. They're the ones that do the buying. There's a part of me that's like, well, in this world, the dads also do the buying. I sort of had to think about that when I'm.
I noticed on your site and just some of your Instagram posts that the pants have this drawstring. And for me, that's like a game changer as a boy mom. So can you talk a little bit more about the functionality of the pants and what makes them unique compared to the other golf pants and shorts you would see in the PGA store or any of the other stores?
I'm glad you asked that. It's a game changer for me too. I call it the magic drawstring. It's like I said, when my kids are slender, and I've always had trouble, and I know other moms have trouble finding pants that fit in the waist, and by the time they fit in the waist, they don't fit in the length. So that not only are the pants not comfortable, but they don't fit well, and then they have the internal snaps or buttons that work to a certain extent. And so I thought, well, why not, jogger pants have drawstrings on the outside, and there are other pants with drawstrings on the outside, but then they don't have belt loops, so then they can't golf in them. So these were all the things when I was like, I need to make this perfect pair of pants that I considered. And so the idea was to make a pants that feels like sweatpants. So they pull on, they have a faux, so there's no actual zipper, but they look like there's a zipper, a faux button or snap. So they look like dress pants, but there's no button or snap for kids to deal with. They have belt loops so they can wear a belt with them. And then the drawstring is inside, so it's not bulky under a belt, but it's still super functional. And the best thing is it doesn't, when they're pulled really, really tight, they still don't get bulgy and, bulky the way the little snaps do.
Tell me a little bit more about the name Turtlebacks and just the meaning behind it all, because I know that there is a special meaning when we first chatted, and I would love you to share with our viewers and listeners really the meaning behind your brand.
Absolutely. So it's sort of a double meaning. So turtleback greens, for those that don't know, are infamous in Pinehurst, I think especially Pinehurst number 2, where the greens resemble the shell of a turtle. So they're very challenging. And Pinehurst, North Carolina has a very special place in our family's heart. We've been going there for years, and we recently purchased a second home there. So now we've spent the last 3 summers there. We went there. I went there growing up with my dad and my brother, who were golfers. And then pre-kids, my husband and I went with my family. And then my kids just so happen to love golf, and it's become a very special place for them with a lot of memory. So I loved that it resembled, it represented Pinehurst. And then also the turtle, the symbolism of the turtle itself, and the resilience and, consistency and then the toughness of a turtle shell just seemed like the perfect symbolism for not only a golf brand, but a boys brand. So it took me a while, but once I got it, I was like, this is it. I knew it was the right name, and everything sort of fit perfectly. It's youthful enough to be a kids brand, touches on golf, but it's not too golf heavy. Yeah. That's where it came from.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Before we dive into some of the golf mom questions I have for you, I would love for you to touch on, if you're comfortable, the vision for your brand, where you see Turtlebacks going. You mentioned soon to be launching the traditional pant as well. So I'm curious as to how big you see yourself getting, what that looks like maybe the next 5, even 10 years from now. And do you envision your children taking over the company too one day?
It's funny. We talk about that. Like I said, my husband is the big dreamer. He's like, let's just go as big as we possibly can. I'm more of a realist and practical. But yes, I would love for it either to be part of my kids' legacy in some way, one way or another. Like I said, when I started this, my goal was just to make this perfect pair of pants and see if they sold. And they've done really well, and the feedback has been great. Now my dreams have grown exponentially. And now I'm like, I want to be like the number 1 boys kids golf brand, and I think we could do it. In terms of expanding beyond boys, I don't know yet. People have asked about men's and girls. I think we will definitely dabble in men's first. I think we have on our radar to come out with like a matching daddy son polo. I know a lot of the dads like to, the dads who caddy like to match with their sons. So that's on our radar. But yes, just slowly and organically is how we've started. And I think that's how we want to continue to grow. We are looking into getting more into wholesale and more retail stores. But yeah, so that's definitely, like, my dreams have grown. And I think slowly realizing, I think I've hit a gap in the market, and just continuing to try to get the word out and get the product out.
I do think you have found a gap in the market, because even just on Instagram, I see a lot of advertisements for kids clothing, but it's both. You're doing more than just stamping a logo or, some colorful graphic on it. You are creating functionality, which I think that is what's missing, because anybody can take a brand, slap their logo on it and throw some design and call it a brand.
True.
But what you're doing is truly unique. And again, as I'll just relate it back to me being a boy mom and understanding sometimes the struggles with getting dressed and what's needed, I just love what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So now we're going to take the business hat off and put your
Okay.
mom caddy hat on.
All
And
right.
I first want to chat about, what got your boys into golf. And I'm not sure if your daughter is kind of leaning that path too, but I know you
I
kind
don't
of
know. I
mentioned
don't know either.
your
She's a funny little thing.
your brother and your dad were into golf. So it sounds like you're kind of from a golf family, if that's correct.
Yes, I am from a golf family, but I actually never golfed, which is kind of funny. And I'm still terrible. I played soccer growing up and I played soccer in college. So I am a former athlete, so I can relate to that part of things. But the boys got into golf again, very organically. So when my oldest was 18 months, he was gifted, one of those sets of plastic Fisher Price golf clubs sets, and he picked up the club and took a swing, and it was like a perfect swing. We were all like, oh my gosh, what was that? And then he just literally never put it down. He would hit those plastic balls all over the house, all over the yard. And then that sort of just sort of grew. My husband's a golfer. He didn't golf growing up, but he started golfing in college. And so he started taking him out to the course, and he would just sit in the golf cart and ride along and probably watch the iPad and eat snacks. And, at that time, we had a second. At that age, it was all very self-driven. And then when he turned 5 was COVID year, and every other sport. He's a very athletic kid. So I should say he was playing soccer and basketball and everything. He's got good hand-eye, like I'm sure most athletes do. So it came pretty natural to him. And at 5, every other sport stopped except golf. So he started competing. Now I kind of think, like, why would we put him in competitions at 5? Like, I don't know. I think back and I think it's a little bit crazy, but there was really not much else to do, and he was good. And so he started and never looked back. And then my second son, he just, he started watching him, and it took him a little longer to get into it. We could see the progression of he would watch his brother play tournaments, and I remember being like, you have to watch him play 5 holes and then you can have the iPad for 4 holes. And then slowly he stopped wanting the iPad, and he would watch him and want to pay attention to him. And it was like one day the switch just flipped, and he was very interested, and he was very good all of a sudden. It was almost like he'd been watching this whole time. And it's like almost when a kid learns to talk, it's like they know how to talk, but they didn't want to do it. It was sort of like that. Like he knew what to do. One day he decided to do it. And he was great at it. So, and I could talk about this all day because they're very different players. They're very different kids, and the whole experience is somewhat fascinating, but that's how they got into it. And I will say my daughter is not into it. She's watched so much golf. She loves wearing golf clothes. She's adorable about turtlebacks, and she's a very tall 4-year-old. So my husband is like, she's going to be the best athlete of all of them, but totally letting her take the reins and seeing what she decides she wants to do.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. With both of your boys competing, obviously they're probably in different age categories for tournaments, or have they ever been looped into the same category and had to compete against each other?
I dread the day that happens. I am not looking forward to that. No, they have not ever had to compete face to face. I mean, they compete with each other every day about everything. They're both very competitive, and they, if they're out playing for fun with their father and grandfather, they're competing, but they're still at their own distances. They're not at the same distances.
Have you had a situation where they both competed in a tournament, not against each other, but one went home with a medal and the other didn't? And how did you handle the car ride home with wanting to celebrate the one who's won and go get ice cream and cheer and make a big deal while also dealing with one that's very
We've had a lot of those situations, actually. And it's funny because it's older brother versus younger brother. Younger brother is so used to older brother winning and doing things ahead, first, just because he's oldest. He was competing first. He's exactly paving the way. So doesn't get upset about it. I think we had difficult situation this summer at the US Kids World Championship. And my middle one did great and ended up getting second. And my older one had a great first 2 days, but didn't have his best third day. And so he dropped off the leaderboard on the third day. And so I am with my older son, who has a caddy for the first time, which was a young college golfer. And I have to say, the best experience and the best thing we've ever done. Highly recommend that. My husband was caddying for my younger son. So I was with my older son because, he had the other caddy. And, after the last hole, he's very upset, and he does get very upset. He's very hard on himself. And so we're in the car and I'm trying to console him, and he's sort of just coming down. Meanwhile, my dad who was with me as well, got a call from my husband saying, oh my gosh, he got second. And he's mouthing it to me out he's standing out the window. My son's in the back and he's mouthing it to me. So my other one can't hear. And I'm having to completely, control my emotions. And so I let my older son sort of calm down. And then I just say, hey, look, buddy, I have to tell you something that's probably going to make this even harder for you because I know how upset you are. And he kind of instantly knew his brother must have done really well. And he did get up. It's funny because he doesn't get up. He gets upset at himself. So it makes the pain that he's feeling for himself harder. So he did get upset. And I said, I'm going to give you the drive home to be upset. And then we're going to get home and you're going to celebrate your brother and we're going to congratulate him. And we're going to go to the awards ceremony and, be proud of him, et cetera, et cetera. So he did. And he was great. And we got home and he was so happy for his brother. He really was. It just does make that pain he's feeling himself that much worse. So and that has happened several times, I would say recently, where the younger brother has been doing very well recently and the older one hasn't been winning as much in general. And I would say I'm actually surprised at how well he's handled it. He's always very, very proud of his brother. It's like I said, the disappointment is more directed at himself, which is a whole difficult thing in general. But yeah, it's challenging. It's definitely challenging. It was a lot of emotions that day in every way. But I think,
I can only imagine.
It's, as I think we all know, golf builds a lot of character and a lot of life lessons, whether they are realizing it or not. So in the end, I think for both of them, whether they're winning or losing or beating each other, it's all, I at least like to tell myself it's all character building and will make them stronger in life. So
absolutely. Well, and I love too that when we share the news with your older son, you kind of anticipated, okay, he's going to be upset, and you allowed him to have that space, the car ride home to just be upset and to feel all the emotions. And I know many of us parents, myself included, are guilty of trying to quash, those feelings, because we're thinking if we get those feelings to go away, they just go away. But if anything, they just suppress it for later. So you kind of have to allow them to feel it and also allow yourself to not get connected. Because I know as a mom, you probably feel very connected where it's hard to not feel what they're feeling. Their sadness is our sadness, right? And it can be challenging in that aspect.
Yeah, I had all the feelings too. I'm like so proud on the one hand, and then still, I mean, he had a great turn. I'm proud of both of them, but I'm, my heart is just breaking because I know how upset he is. But yes, it was quite the day.
Sure. Well, getting to Worlds just in itself is a huge accomplishment. And I say to any of the parents whose kid has just even made it to that point, that itself is a huge accomplishment.
Yes.
Because many kids try for years and don't even make it there. So the fact that you even have had your kids be a part of that is amazing.
Thank you. And that's what we tell them. They're, like I said, they're so hard on themselves. They don't probably see it that way, but I think we just reinforce that as much as we can and hope they realize that one day.
Yeah, right. Exactly. As a parent, what are some do's and don'ts that you and your husband have learned in terms of being a supportive golf parent? And in the case of your husband too, who is a caddy out there with your sons, or are you also a caddy then when you have to, tag team?
I have caddied a few times. I don't love caddying because I'm not a golfer. And my dad actually is usually the tag teamer. He's caddied a lot for my younger son. He was going through some health stuff this summer. But so I have caddied a few times. I wouldn't say I'm a designated caddy. I try to avoid it. And we're lucky to have my dad who's local and loves golf and knows what he's talking about and has a very good, very, very good demeanor with both sons. But I will say my younger son is easier to caddy for. Although the better he gets, the harder he gets because their expectations just get.
Right. Or as you know too, sometimes the hard part is you win something and then you
Yeah.
expect the next time to win. So coming even in
Yes.
second or third place feels like a failure to them when you're like, that's great. Or maybe it was your
Absolutely.
personal best, who knows? But to them, it's like, yeah, but I made first. So now
Yes.
I
Yes.
continue to want that.
Absolutely. Yes, we've definitely had some of that. But in terms of do's and don'ts, and it's interesting because I think my role as a golf mom and a non-caddy golf mom is very different than caddy dads and or just caddies in general. I guess it doesn't matter who's the mom, who's, whether it's mom or dad. I like to say I'm the therapist or I'm the support, the emotional support person when things don't go well. And I know you know this and your listeners probably know this, but golf is it's such a uniquely challenging mental sport. And I don't think I know people know that, but until you're in it as a parent, I don't really think other moms of other sports or parents of other sports really, really, truly appreciate how hard it is mentally for the kids and for the parents. One thing we've grown a lot, I would say, as golf parents since our kids started. I'm sure we've made a lot of mistakes along the way. I know my husband's changed his ways in terms of caddying. Like, I think when they were very young, it was very easy to just be very hands-on, right? Because one, they're 5 years old and don't particularly know what they're doing, but that's just your natural instincts. I think you're trying to help, but sometimes that doesn't always go well. And we're competitive people too, right? We focus really hard on not focusing on score and results, but even that is hard for us because we want to. I'm a athlete. Like, I liked winning, so it's hard to do that, even though I know that's the best thing to do for them. So I think we've grown a lot and we've gotten so much better at my husband in particular is so much more hands off than he used to be on the course, especially as the kids get older and they need to, they're not going to have a caddy for much longer, especially my older one. And then after a round, I would say, in every sport. Right now, we're big into travel soccer world. They're taking a bit of a golf break this fall, and I think I read somewhere after they walk off the field, just say, "I loved watching you play," and we've gotten much better at that. So, do would be to listen more than you talk, or not talk would be my advice. I will say my parents were so good at that, and they came to every one of my college soccer games, and if I didn't have the best game, I'd walk off and I'd look at them and they wouldn't say a word because they knew I would be mad at myself. And I think I don't know if I've ever told them enough how much I appreciate that. But as a parent now, sometimes I'm on the soccer field yelling at them and I'm like, what? Be quiet. Don't do that.
Right.
So in golf, I would say it's similar. Just let them be. If it's not a good round, don't say anything. Let them talk when they're ready. And another do, which again is hard at this as they get older and in this competitive sports world, in any world. And it's a constant balance of letting them dictate sort of how much they want to play and practice. And, I think in the golf world especially, it's so easy to get wrapped up in the competition of I need to do more. I need to hire this coach and that coach, and I need to do this tournament. I need to do that tournament, and I'm falling behind. We're like, okay, let's just take it one step at a time. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to let them take more, just sort of let them decide, hey, I'm ready to play again, or I'm ready to compete in a tournament again, or I really want to go practice, saying, you need to go practice now. You need to go play. You're not playing enough. And eventually they're going to have to decide which sport, if they want to pick one sport and dedicate all their time to that, which one it's going to be and to what extent they want to do that.
Did you find yourself, especially as a teen or a young college student, that soccer was your identity?
Yeah, I think so. And I think still to this day, it's still part of my identity, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing. I love being able to say I was an athlete and I played soccer. And especially now that my kids are in that world, it's like the one thing they sort of will listen to me about. So yeah, I think a lot of my history and past probably, I do think it took me a long time to sort of figure out, okay, what am I now? What's next? What do I do next? And I think I loved playing sports and I loved playing my sport in college. And I don't think I would do anything differently. I think it makes me who I am and helped me grow as a person in so many ways. But I think it's just, I think it's in the back of my mind when people, when we catch ourselves getting too competitive or too intense or too involved, and I sort of sit back and say, okay, what's what's the end goal here? Our kids are 8 and 10. What are we trying to accomplish? And the answer is always, I don't know. It's what they want, right? If they decide they want to play a sport in college, then we will certainly help them do that in every way we can.
One last question before we kind of wrap up is, what kind of mindset tools or messaging do you give all three kids in the morning, like when you wake up and have your breakfast before you send them out on their day to school or to practice? What kind of things do you and your husband say to them to help them, feel their best, be their best, have the confidence in life and school and sports?
Well, I probably should be saying more things in the morning when we go to school, because it's always so hectic. I'm like,
that's true.
Oh, get out
or
the
maybe
door.
we should say, at night when you're putting them to bed, because you're right. The morning.
I think probably the most time we give them those words of wisdom are probably before sporting events, and we're big on confidence. That is something I think we. For one, myself, I always sort of struggled with that. So I had a saying my soccer coach told me, I think I was probably middle to high school, and it was a little piece of paper, and she wrote on it, calm and confident, I play well. Because I was one of those people, if I made a mistake, I would sort of get in my head instantly, and then it was like sort of all downhill from there. Versus if I went out and I was raring to go and my first touch on the ball was great, it was almost like I knew I'd have a good game. And my older son in particular is similar. And so I use that phrase for him a lot when he's doubting himself. I found we're very different in some ways, but we have a lot of similarities, as I've noticed as he's gotten older. So that is one thing we certainly tell him. And both of them. My middle son is more probably your typical middle child. He's a typical little brother. He has less doubt. He's just more he's more carefree and happy-going in general, but similar. We tell him to be confident, and in golf, we have sort of a family motto called, we say, next shot, which my husband has a bracelet that he wears that says next shot, and it's transferred to Turtlebacks as well. We got ball markers made, and
nice.
It's really become not only a golf saying, but in life, things are going to happen, and bad shots are going to happen, and bad holes are going to happen, and we really try to teach them to move on. You can't go backwards on the golf course. That's much easier said than done. They both have a very hard time with that. In the golf, I think you probably have heard of Michelle Holmes. She's had a saying I've always liked, which is be the parents, which is be the calm, not the chaos. And I think it's just a great mindset for parents to keep for any sport, but golf in particular. Like, it's so stressful for the kids. Like, they need to look at you and you need to be the calm and not make it worse. So
absolutely,
that's something I always have in the back of my mind in life in general, when they're melting down about something or something's not going their way. And I definitely don't always do it. I certainly don't always stay calm, but I try to do my best.
Well, Emily, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I love just everything you touched on, from the business side to the mom side of raising your junior golfers. What would be the best way for our listeners to find you, to shop Turtleback, and if you can leave our viewers with the best way to contact you and find you.
Yeah, the best way to shop is just through our website, which is shopturtlebacks.com. The best way, I would say, to contact me or reach out would be either through that website, I have the email address, or through social media, which is Shop Turtlebacks on Instagram. I am the only person there still, so it's always me who you're going to get if you reach out. And hopefully we'll be in more stores soon, but yeah, that's the best way to shop. And please do reach out at any time. I love hearing from customers, and that's one of the best things about this, is meeting new people.
Awesome. Well, and we will definitely have all the details of where to find Emily and Turtlebacks in our show notes. And with that, thank you for tuning in to the Golf Mom Mindset, and we'll see you all in the next episode.